The United States stands as the unrivaled global superpower, leading the world in both economic might and military strength. With the most advanced Army, Navy, and Air Force, it invests more in national defense than China, Russia, India, Germany, and the UK combined. In 2023 alone, the U.S. poured an astounding $916 billion into its defense, maintaining the largest naval fleet and securing the top spot on the Global Firepower Index. Economically, the U.S. has outpaced all G7 nations, with its booming GDP and world-leading tech industry. For over a century, the U.S. has held dominance in nearly every field. But how has America consistently outperformed rivals like China and Russia? What fuels its unparalleled strength? To understand the secrets of America's power, let's take a look back at its historical journey. With a closer look at the historical background, it is evident how the U.S. proved itself a formidable power after World War II. The only challenge after the war was the Soviet Union, an emerging military and technological power. To counter Soviet aggression and expansion, the U.S. established its most decorated and well-organized security alliance, called NATO. The main purpose of NATO was to push back the Soviet dominance in Eastern Europe and to secure European and American strongholds. But other proponents make the U.S. the dominant power in the world. Let's explore how the U.S. became the most powerful nation on Earth. The first and foremost reason is that the U.S. is geographically gifted. It sits in the temperate zone of the Northern Hemisphere, which gives it a vast share of agricultural lands. The wealth was built on agriculture. The U.S. had more farmland than all the European countries combined. The other reason America dominates the world economies is that it is one of the largest countries in the world by area and population. It has one of the best shipping and trade routes, with the Atlantic, Pacific, Arctic, and Indian Oceans. It has vast natural resources and human capital. Not only that, the U.S. dodges its rivals through its soft power with big industries like Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and some big entrepreneurial companies. With huge potential in almost every field of life, the U.S. remains at the top of the global market. But there is another aspect in which the U.S. excels over every superpower in the world, and that is its military capability. As America is a global power with global interests, it feels the need to protect itself and its national interests from any foreign aggressor. Its huge economy depends on global trade and its dependence on its international allies. So for an economy to prosper and dominate its influence in the global geopolitical arena, its military should be strong and adaptable. A military force consists of several things, from military personnel to tanks, ships, airplanes, submarines, naval aircraft, rockets, weapons, missiles, and last but not least, advanced technological equipment. According to recent reports, the U.S. has around 750 military bases in 80 countries. On top of that, the U.S. military has 1.3 million active personnel deployed at home and abroad. Shockingly, the U.S. Defense Department occupies almost 4,790 military sites around the world, covering an area of 27 million acres. These military personnel protect national security interests while also ensuring the regulation of national supply chains. They also engage themselves to deter attacks and aggression in bilateral, multilateral, and regional defense programs. 10 countries host the largest number of U.S. military troops. Among them are Japan, Germany, South Korea, Italy, and the UK. Moreover, the U.S. enjoys a formidable military force stationed for domestic purposes. As of September 2023, the U.S. has almost 2.63 million active troops, reserve, and civilian workers domestically. Adding to that, the U.S. spends almost 40% of global military spending, which is $2.4 trillion. This huge spending is 3.4% of the U.S. GDP. In comparison, U.S. arch-rival China spent $296 billion on defense-related projects, while Russia is in the third position. Let's give you an idea of how the U.S. stands against its rivals, China and Russia. The U.S. military budget for fiscal year 2024 is $850 billion. On the other hand, the total budget of the Russian Federation in U.S. dollars is $1.7 trillion. And on defense, Russia spent around $110 billion. That means the U.S. military budget is way ahead of that of Russia and China combined. Moreover, the the U.S. provided a whopping $1.5 billion to 9 companies to boost their production of artillery last year. The U.S. set a goal to produce 100,000 artillery shells a month by the end of 2025. But the story does not end here. Let's discuss other factors why the U.S. has so many naval, air, and ground forces so strong that no country can come up with them. The first and foremost reason is that the U.S. military has unmatched air power. It is the most advanced and powerful air force in the world. It has the expertise to carry out missions and ensure air superiority and global mobility. It has a vast fleet of fighter jets, bombers, and advanced surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft. The U.S. has a total of 13,247 military aircraft, of which around 5,213 belong to the U.S. Air Force. On the other hand, Russia and China rank below with 4,182 and 3,284 military aircraft, respectively. The other factor that makes the U.S. military unique is its inventory management, planning, and routing. To exert military power in any state or region, strategic logistics are very important. The U.S. logistics have been of top-notch quality, which makes it efficient to provide services, materials, and weapons to the troops on any battleground. On top of that, the U.S. Navy is considered the most powerful of any other country. It has some prime purposes: maritime security, deterrence, sea control, power projection, and retaliation in case of any aggression. Adding to that, the U.S. Navy plays a key role in fulfilling American military power globally and responding to international crises. Although China is often called the world's largest navy, in comparison to the U.S., Washington consists of more major warships and maritime warfare. According to the U.S. Congressional Research Service, the U.S. Navy holds 9,000 missile vertical launch tubes to fire long-range missiles, while China only contains 1,000 launch tubes. Not only this, but the U.S. Navy also has a cyber advantage. Its cyber resources are concentrated in the 10th Fleet, which holds around 19,000 active military and reserve personnel. Recent strategic studies research indicated that China is 10 years behind the U.S. in terms of cyber capability. Along with that, the U.S. is the major sponsor of the Western Security Alliance, NATO. According to a Reuters report, the U.S. contributes almost 16% of NATO's annual budget. To maintain its military presence, the U.S. has deployed 85,000 troops across Europe to strengthen Europe's defense. So the U.S. holds significant influence in Europe in case any aggression comes from its rival Russia, as in the case of the war in Ukraine. The same is the case in the Middle East. The U.S. has made itself a key player by utilizing its diplomatic power and economic and military support in the Gulf countries. According to reports, the U.S. has deployed around 40,000 troops in the Middle East. The largest U.S. military base in the Middle East is located in Qatar. Besides that, the U.S. has a presence in Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. So if we go from the Atlantic to the Pacific to the Indian Ocean and to the South China Sea, the U.S. military is present in every region, not just present, but to safeguard the U.S. and its allied interests on a regional and global scale. But in comparison, China and Russia have a handful of allies in certain regions. Russia has its neighboring country, Belgium, to weaken Europe, while China does not have enough military presence in the South China Sea alone to secure its interests. It is evident how the U.S. has a systematic network of trade and global supply chains to lead the game in the geopolitical arena. The U.S. industrial and manufacturing industry has spread across the globe to trade and influence business for national interests. In the context of our discussion, it is obvious how the U.S. has remained the strongest military power in the world. Not only does it ensure U.S. dominance around the globe, but it also keeps the danger at bay from key rivals. That is the reason the U.S. has every reason to solidify its defense capacity. But is it the only way forward as the world is progressing to more technological and cyber warfare? What are your thoughts about it? Let us know in the comments section. For more such videos and hot topics, stay tuned to our channel and don't forget to subscribe.